Hello, Spoonie friends. Today we're talking with chronically ill author and one of my best friends, Maggie Bowyer, about self-advocacy, processing trauma through poetry, and winning a disability court case and how to file. Let's dive in. Welcome, friend. It's so good to see your face. I love you. I'm excited to chat today. I feel like I've gotten so many like nuggets of wisdom and just like so much out of our chronic illness conversations over the years. And I know you have a lot of awesome stuff to share with us today. So tell me about what it was like for you when you first got sick. Like, what were some of the first symptoms that you experienced?
It was kind of an array, and I didn't really realize that some of those things were symptoms of anything. But I had a lot of pelvic pain, incontinence. I had like widespread muscle pain from what I now know it was dislocations and subluxations, and just so many things that I thought were totally normal, from being clumsy to needing really intense braces for 4.5 years and having teeth in the wrong places, and so many things.
It's amazing when you get your like diagnoses and then you look back and so many other things from your life really start making sense. I can totally relate to that. Would you mind sharing a few of your illnesses and like how long it took you to go through the diagnosis process?
Yeah, so I have actually over 20 diagnoses now, but they all kind of stem from the main player, which is hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I also have endometriosis, gastroparesis, fibromyalgia, and a heaping dose of complex PTSD, among other things. It took me about 13 years, I think, to get diagnosed with
Wow.
endometriosis for my first symptoms. And that was actually my first chronic illness diagnosis. And the rest kind of came after that once I realized that my normal was not the normal.
When chronic pain starts so young like that, it's like you kind of assume that everybody's like going through this, or maybe it's growing pains or something, and then you figure out like, oh, none of this is normal. Okay. I have a lot to
Exactly.
get figured out. How would you encourage someone that is starting that process of getting diagnosed with a chronic illness?
Yeah, just don't give up and find new doctors. I know that's like a really daunting and scary process, and you think like, oh, this is probably the best it's going to get, but there are good doctors out there, and you don't have to stay with a bad doctor. If you're not getting the referral or the tests that you need, get it in writing. Say, hey, I need this test for this reason through your little portal, whatever portal it is. I need this test for this reason. And then if they say no still, then you can say, hey, will you put that in my chart that you're denying me this test? They usually turn around real quick. I've had doctors immediately give me referrals, immediately give me tests as soon as I say that, especially if it's in writing. They just don't want to be liable. Then you can kind of take that and find a good doctor with that information. I have now incredible doctors on my care team, and I it did not start that way.
That is such a good tip to like be able to get things in writing like that and to just kind of summarize what was talked about in your appointment afterwards in your email or chart notes. Just some kind of breadcrumb on your end and receipts and stuff, especially in the case of ending up going through, a disability case like you've gone through. Um, what kind of specialists make up your care team, and about how long would you say that it took to put your care team together currently? I know
Yeah,
that that's
I
always
mean,
changing and probably constantly in flux, but just a summary.
yeah, I was gonna say I see a genetic counselor, a couple different types of pain specialists, a pain psychologist, a couple different GIs, including a GI surgeon, an interventional radiologist, and a MIGS gyne for my endometriosis. There's probably more, but those are like the main ones I see pretty regularly. I'm also in process of getting into a POTS clinic with an autonomic neurologist or cardiologist. I can't remember which one she is, but autonomic is the important part there. It is always in flux. I think that it took me a few years at one GI to like decide to switch. And once I did, I was really glad that I did. And so it's just kind of that thing where like it's scary to try something new because like maybe it'll be worse, but you deserve better if you're thinking that. So just keep looking and keep some people would call it doctor shopping, but I'm like, you don't deserve to stay with a doctor that gaslights you or a doctor that's not giving you the care you think you deserve. I've also switched providers simply to like have better access financially, because there are some doctors that will be more financially accessible to you than others. So that's another very valid reason to switch doctors.
Those are all really incredible points. It's an ongoing process. And yeah, some people do like talk about doctor shopping, but there is such a thing as getting a second opinion. And if someone's not going to get to the bottom of something, you deserve to move on to a professional that is going to help you because at the end of the day, they do work for you. I think that putting together a care team can be really hard and it can be so discouraging after you've had medical providers turn you away without answers. And it's important to keep going until you do feel comfortable with your provider and you do have someone that is aligned with your health goals. You've had several surgeries now throughout your chronic illnesses. Would you talk to us a little bit about how you use art to process medical trauma?
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing process since medical trauma is ongoing. It's nice to feel like, though, that my illness has provided me with something or that I get something out of a particularly bad doctor's appointment. If I can walk or roll away with a poem, a photograph, or an idea, then at least I feel like I got something from it, which kind of helps me cope. It's not like, oh, my illness just hates. It's like, wow, my illness has given me something. I've written for my whole life, but I had kind of taken a hiatus for a little short couple of years there. And when I got really sick, I kind of came back to my art. And I really feel like my big crash gave me my art back. And that is a really gratifying feeling. I also think it combines different parts of the brain, like left brain and right brain, which is a big part of being able to process trauma and store it properly as a memory rather than it just living in the middle brain as unprocessed memories. And I think that that's really important. I also think that therapy is an important part of that as well. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I've been in therapy majority of my life, DBT, brain spotting, and finding a therapist who specializes in trauma and validates my chronic illness has been a really life-saving measure in my healthcare journey. And also a pain psych that it really validates chronic pain and understands chronic pain. Because I think a lot of pain psychs, like I think a lot of people have bad experiences at pain clinics and with pain psychs and with gaslighting. And that's very valid and it's scary. But like my pain psych in particular is like, here's things I can help you with. Here's the things that are just going to be a part of having your illness and they suck and it's painful and it's not fun and here's what I can help you with. And she very much validates like, you need medication for these things, and let's add to your toolbox. And I think that's important. And so, like, having providers that validate you that way, and then again, being able to say, okay, I had a really bad provider this time, let me go write a poem about it, and getting something out of that bad appointment is really important to me.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That sounds like such an amazing way to regain ownership of all the emotions that you're feeling and kind of that lack of control you can feel coming away from a negative medical experience, especially ongoing with chronic illness.
I was going to say the other thing my illness has given me is you.
I know the amazing chronic illness community, and like, I
Really.
wouldn't have met so many amazing people that I now know and like consider like lifelong friends. And that's completely changed everything. It was so isolating before. I had people that I could talk to and that understood the same, that spoke the same language as me around our pain and our symptoms and our illnesses. And
Yeah.
it's a really powerful experience when people relate to that. And it's like, I wouldn't wish it on you ever, but I'm so glad we're in it together.
Right?
Recently, you won your disability case. That is just, first off, congratulations. I know that was a really long fight for you. And on behalf of the listeners, could you speak to how long that process took and what that was like for you?
Yeah, I think it was nearly 3 years, and it was like 4 years without work. I think for the first year, I was like convinced I would go back to the workforce after getting some health care and convinced I could like go back, and I kept trying and it just like didn't work. So it ended up being, I think, 3 years. My biggest advice for people, if you're in the process or like looking to start that process, is to find a lawyer and talk to a lawyer. Many disability lawyers will offer free case reviews. I recommend looking for someone who specializes in your types of disabilities. I found somebody who specialized in invisible illnesses that are really hard to diagnose, like fibromyalgia, endometriosis. And like she had those illnesses specifically listed on her website. And those are two illnesses that I have. And so I went with her, and she had really great reviews. I also recommend looking for somebody who doesn't get paid until you win. A lot of disability lawyers will get paid from your back pay and not have you pay up front. So that is really important because they also won't take your case if they don't think you're going to win.
I think so many people think that, hey, I'm going through this stuff. I don't have the money for a lawyer to even fight this case. So that is such incredible advice. I didn't even know that was a
Yeah.
thing. You said finding a lawyer that's like specific to like the area of disability that you have. So specifically a disability lawyer. And then what else is necessary to like really build a good case for that?
Yeah, so they'll ascertain a lot of your options and they'll make sure all the paperwork is in order because that's where SSA will try and really get you is the bureaucracy of it all. I know it's really difficult to stay on top of things when you're fatigued and you have brain fog and pain and get things mailed on time and this, that, and the other, but that's what they want. And so that's my biggest recommendation is like make this your top priority and make sure that you're getting all the paperwork in on time. They also will deny you the first time. Almost everyone gets denied the first time, and most people get denied the second time as well. And so they're looking for you to stop applying and for you to give up and you to be discouraged. And the third time is when you get a hearing before a judge, and that's when you actually get to speak to somebody and kind of prove that you need this and that you deserve it. And they want you to stop applying, but don't give up if you need it. You deserve to fight for it. We shouldn't have to fight so hard, but you do deserve it. I recommend telling them about your bad days, like the judge and your lawyer, sharing how exactly it impacts your life. Don't be afraid of being graphic or oversharing. I talked about my bathroom habits in depth. I talked about pre-synesthetic days when I'd spin them on the floor and with my feet propped up on the wall. And I relayed how much I rely on my partner to keep our household functioning. You deserve to be heard and share your real story, and you deserve care. And another thing that's important when applying for disability is to prove that you've sought care for your chronic illnesses and that you are continuing to seek care. That can be really hard when you're not employed, especially in the US. So I always recommend looking up your local hospital on Google and adding the words financial assistance or charity care. I tell everyone this. Most hospitals in the US are nonprofits and they provide free or reduced care to a lot of people. The income limit is actually surprisingly high, and every hospital does have different criteria. So, like, one of my local hospitals, you have to have no insurance and then they will provide it. Another hospital, it's like 200% of the poverty line, which is like $55,000 a year. Like most Americans don't make that amount. And so it's a lot of people that can get free or reduced care. So I always recommend looking into that as an option. I actually get all of my care for free through one of the best medical schools in the country because of charity care. And that's been such a blessing. And I think that that is a big reason I did win my case is that I have been actively seeking care for the entirety of the process. And I was only able to do that because of charity care. So Social Security really looks for that, and they are looking for any reason to deny you. So, like, one, you deserve care, and two, you deserve disability if you're seeking it. And so getting that care through charity care is, I think, the best option for a lot of people.
Such incredible advice. And so, yeah, we have to keep spreading the word about these programs because so many people don't know that it exists. And I think also are just so overwhelmed and daunted by the whole disability process in general. Is there anything I didn't ask that you want to add?
I mean, just that you're not alone, that it's really easy to feel lonely and it's okay to feel lonely in this experience, but that you're not alone. There are so many of us, like 20 to 25% of the world is disabled, and finding community really does help. Like, I thought I was just weird for so long, and it's like, oh no, you're just neurodivergent. I thought that I was just like lazy or clumsy or all these other things. And it's like, no, you have a genetic condition. And then finding other people that have the same experiences, you're gonna make sure that your access needs are met and that they are a top priority, but that and that like your illnesses are thought of and are a top priority, but that aren't the only thing about you and aren't this like emergency constantly when you're just trying to talk about your reality.
I always tell people that I'm getting close to when we're first dating that there are two questions that are different. How are you? And how are you feeling? Those are two very different questions. Like I might be, in a good mood, but, having a really high symptom day and be really struggling. And, somebody that knows to ask about both and cares about you just as a person beyond your illnesses too, it's really a true gift of friendship for sure. You talked about so many good like nuggets of advice about putting together a winning case and just like I want to congratulate you on your, 3, 4 years of incredible ongoing fight and for not stopping and keeping at it and encouraging others to do the same. I didn't know that they, usually denied the first couple of times and that, you only get really a hearing after the third time. It shouldn't take that much to just be heard. That's really unfortunate. Who are some of your favorite chronically ill creators to follow?
Well, of course, you. Um, Of course, you were my first Fibro friend. So that was really cool. One of my amazing poetry friends who is chronically ill has actually been through the disability process and is Prudence Brooks. And so if you like poetry, I definitely recommend Prudence. I share her on my Instagram all the time. So some others that are more chronic illness specific include Arthritis Meggie, Sick Bitch Mary, Chronically Niche, Meesh, and Colorblind Zebra.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I follow most of those people, but I'm definitely going to go check out the last two. Um, and then lastly, where can listeners follow you and learn more about you and your amazing poetry?
You're so sweet. I am on Instagram and on TikTok for now, question mark, at Maggie.writes, Writes, like a writer. And I would love to have you join me and to chat with you, DM me and let me know that you listen to Rissa, and I will just shower you with love because Rissa's the best.
Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you everyone for listening. And again, you can follow me at Fibro Girl blog on Instagram and Fibro Girl on TikTok. Thank you so much for listening and helping spread awareness about chronic illness. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.